country.
People will do anything to keep from talking about our problems with our immigration policy and how to fix it. And it's really getting disgusting for a lot of people to watch.
Through his bravery and sacrifice, Dr. King opened the eyes and lifted the conscience of our nation.
Can you give an apology for the statement yesterday? Mr. President, are you a racist?
This is fake outrage by the liberal left and the mainstream media who doesn't want to focus on the real issues.
The Trump administration's waiving sanctions on Iran, thus keeping President Obama's nuclear deal in place for now.
The president is trying to get the Congress to make some changes to the deal.
Fox has learned that House Intel Chairman Devin Nunes told Republican colleagues there is evidence that shows clear abuse of government surveillance programs by FBI and Justice Department officials.
Another spectacular day for stocks. They surged to new record closes in the best start to the year since 2003.
Welcome to Fox and Friends on this Saturday morning, January 13th. We got Leland Vinner, Rachel Campo-Stuffy on the couch. You know, I don't think you're from a small town. You're from New York, right?
Negative, Ghost Rider, from St. Louis, Missouri.
Outside of that.
Hey, I gotta tell you, guys from small
Midwestern,
towns,
like you.
Guys from small towns wear cowboy boots, okay? Guys from, fancy places got shoes and socks with lines on them, all sorts of stuff going on here.
You got me. It's true. No, but that means we're bringing a little bit of small town to you, America, from the big city here.
Yeah, a little throwdown on the couch all morning long.
Because I live in a small town. I live in Wausau, Wisconsin.
How many people?
Not a lot. Probably less than his town. A lot less.
A couple thousand?
Yeah. No, more than that.
So we'll do a little small town in this big town for you this morning. Thanks for being here. But if you've been watching the media, if your television hasn't exploded yet, it's close to it. Because the amount of outrage we're seeing across the spectrum about the president's comments regarding the DACA deal and immigration and who comes and who doesn't. Well, where the left goes is where they go almost all the time on this. They go to the R word, to racist. He's a racist, and they can't stop. Here's a little bit of a montage of what the Democrats and the media were saying yesterday about the president.
Folks, you can debate all you want about the president's recent language, but you cannot debate what it seemingly reveals about his core beliefs, that white Europeans are good and brown immigrants are bad.
I've called him a racist, deplorable, despicable, added to what others are calling him, a moron, ignorant. The United States of America is represented by the most despicable human being that could possibly ever walk the earth.
I can say now Donald Trump is a racist.
Yes, absolutely.
I can say that now.
It's disgusting, it's vile, and it's racist. And I don't think that we need to ask the president whether he's a racist or not. The president's words, they speak for themselves.
Wow.
All right. Well, there is an interesting concept here because the media seems to just love this. It's almost if the president was truly a racist, if there was a real issue in America, it would be a terrible thing. It would be an awful thing. But yet, when you listen to some of these commentators, you saw Don Lemon when he kicked off a show a couple of days ago announcing to the world that the president of the United States is a racist, in his words. He was almost gleeful in how he described it.
Well, listen, this is going further because the Congressional Black Caucus has now said they're going to formally censure the president coming up next week. But also, I would say that wasn't enough. They're going further than that. Now, Al Green, Representative Al Green, with the support of Representative Maxine Waters, now says he's going to reintroduce the legislation or the resolution to impeach the president. So these remarks have now gone from it's racist, he needs to be censored, he needs to be impeached over these remarks.
Well, that's the level of hysteria that they will reach. Rush Limbaugh does such a nice job distilling this down. He said maybe it's not that the president is racist. Maybe it's that the president is asking all the questions that Democrats don't want asked about our immigration system. Maybe it hasn't been based on anything in the past, and it should be. Take a listen to Rush Limbaugh.
He blew the whole thing up with one question. Forget the words used. The question was, why do you people on the Democrat side want to continue to bring people to this country that are not going to benefit this country? Why instead do you not want to bring the best and brightest? These people in the media are a bunch of the biggest phony balonies on this planet. acting like they don't talk this way. They think this way about flyover country, as though anybody who does think or talk that way is somehow subhuman. Bottom line here is that the President of the United States was presented with an absolute rotten deal.
This is precisely the conversation the left does not want to have. Who exactly are we importing into our country, and how are they doing once they get here? If you listen to the left, every single dreamer in this country is a valedictorian and a war hero. Every single one.
Yeah.
Listen, there are a lot of wonderful dreamers doing great things, but the obsession over that does not translate into a rational conversation about our immigration policies. I mean, the State Department issued warnings, ironically, on January 10th about Haiti and El Salvador. This is not an indictment of all the people there. This is a recognition that a lottery from countries around the world may not be the best system.
I love what Rush Limbaugh pointed out there, though. Go back to what he said about how the left speaks about conservatives in much the same way. Remember, it was Peter Strzok, the FBI agent who leaked these, who had the email exchange with his lover, who said, "I can smell Trump supporters in Walmart." That's the disdain they have for conservatives, for people who support Donald Trump, and then they're all melting down over the president allegedly saying, these comments.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say them.
For all the outrage that the left is having here and talking about, we're going to go ahead and try to impeach Donald Trump over this, or we're going to censure him, they're wasting no time making political hay out of it. We got Nancy Pelosi out with a statement now saying, now it is time for a clean DACA bill.
Right.
Remember, Dianne Feinstein brought that up in that meeting earlier this week with President Trump, but Pelosi wants now a clean DACA bill trying to capitalize on this. And it proves that nothing to them is sacred. Everything is about politics. And the proof there is this. They say that you can't send any of these anybody back to these countries, Haiti, El Salvador, Honduras, Somalia, because it's so awful. But if you call it so awful, you're a racist.
Great point. And it's not just delusional from Nancy Pelosi. She's hoping to shame Republicans into saying, you're so racist, prove you're not, by giving us a clean DACA bill. If they have a spine at all, they won't. And we talked about this a little yesterday. This self-appointed group of senators who are deciding what this bill should be, where are the conservatives? Where are the folks that actually believe in the president's immigration policies? Let's get them in the room so the president doesn't have to deal with a deal that's put in front of him that's no good.
But can I just say, I also think the president, look, he stepped on it. He had them cornered earlier in the week in that 55-minute meeting, bipartisan meeting, where they were he cornered them into talking about a solution for DACA if you give them the wall, if you give them an end to chain migration, if you end the lottery system. Then he said this, and the Democrats used it to go, now we want a clean DACA bill.
Yeah, we're going to look a little bit at that tape.
Because they love talking on the racial grounds.
A little later at that tape and sort of how well it played versus now. And in some ways, the Democrats continue to look for different distractions, whether it's all of a sudden going, everything's racist. And there's also some other stories they don't want in the media. Devin Nunes has some sources from inside the FBI, and Fox News is learning from our sources that Nunes is charging abuse of government surveillance by FBI and Justice officials. Pete, as you pointed out, the dots have been there for a very long time. Nunes now sort of putting them together for everybody.
We're guilty of what the so-called mainstream media wants to do, which is obsess over these comments the president made and not focus on the scandal of the century. I don't know, the scandal of whatever it is. The fact that the Obama administration used government agencies to surveil a political opponent. Devin Nunes, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, has now said behind closed doors twice to two different groups that he has seen documents, the FISA warrants themselves, that show that it was the Obama administration's intention to surveil Trump folks using the FISA process. And he intends in the next couple of weeks to reveal that to all 435 members of the House of Representatives, so they can make their own conclusions. This is evidence of the worst suspicions many of us have had.
I mean, you can't do what Dianne Feinstein did and just lay it all out there for everybody. Just throw it out. Yeah, not call anybody because you have a cold.
Devin Nunes has been a hero throughout this process. He's been shamed by the left, pushed out of the investigation. He's come right back in.
I think he's been vindicated in a lot of ways, and I think what we will see come out at the end of the month may fully vindicate him.
Absolutely. Well, on this very program, about, 9 months ago, Mark Levin, in March of last year, came on this program because he'd been reading open source documents, just regular, the Washington Post, the New York Times, about surveillance. He put it all together before anyone else did. Take a listen.
The issue isn't whether the Obama administration spied on the Trump campaign or transition or certain of its surrogates. The issue is the extent of it. They ought to release both FISA court applications where they sought the warrant. The one in the summer and the one in October. So we know exactly what they were doing. That's number one. Number two, Congress needs to see the daily presidential intelligence briefings over the past year or so. Those are the beginnings of a serious investigation.
This is the moment, March, almost a year ago, when the reporting was all about, look at all the collusion, look at all the collusion, and the newspapers were talking about the surveillance and the FISA courts and the FISA. This is before anyone realized it was being used to spy on Trump for political purposes. Now they don't want to talk about it anymore.
Can you imagine the reverse, Pete, though? Can you imagine if the Bush administration had used their powers to help John McCain and to spy on Barack Obama during his campaign and possibly even during his administration? It's crazy.
You're already seeing the left try to undermine the reporting on this story. You spoke about President Obama. Speak of him himself, the former president. He is back and already trying to discredit a lot of the reporting that is going on about this issue. Take a listen.
One of the biggest challenges we have to our democracy is the degree to which we don't share a common baseline of facts. What the Russians exploited, but it was already here, is we are operating in completely different information universes. If you watch Fox News, you are living on a different planet than you are if you listen to NPR.
I don't know about everybody else, but I think we're all on planet Earth. At least as far as if you're watching this program, I think you're on planet Earth. Fox has not extended out our broadcast reach beyond the solar system that we know of.
But if you're Barack Obama and you know Devin Nunes might be dropping something at the end of the month that proves that your administration was spying on on Donald Trump as a campaigner or as a candidate, you might want to discredit Fox, because I can guarantee you we'll be the only ones covering that.
Well, of course, and I don't know the exact timestamp of when that aired, but he hates Fox News because he hates the fact that the left doesn't control the entire narrative anymore.
Yeah.
Just like talk radio. For the longest time, whether it was Walter Cronkite or whoever got to call balls and strikes, they were the truth. Well, now we have an opportunity for the truth to come out. Thank God. And he doesn't like it. And you're right, without Fox News Channel or other outlets, all this stuff gets swept under the rug and never talked about.
Everybody makes such a big deal about Donald Trump being at war with the media. It was President Obama's advisors who talked back in 2009 about treating Fox News as a political opponent.
Sure.
This goes way back. That clip's pretty recent with David Letterman out on Netflix. If you care to watch the whole thing, hear what he says. We want to know what you think about what President Obama just said. What planet are you living on? Let us know, friends at foxnews.com.
That's exactly right. What are you fired up about this morning? Let us know. All right, we're moving on to a few more topics. President Trump honoring Martin Luther King Jr. as the media attacks him, asking him if he's racist. Of course. Of course. But Alveda King has a response. She joins us next.
And he wanted to take down a Christopher Columbus statue because it offended many people. Now, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio wants to spend millions on what he calls good statues. Maybe a statue of Pete Hegseth. That's what he's talking about.
Barack Obama.
It's definitely going to be Barack.
President, are you a racist? Mr. President, will you respond to these serious questions about your statement, sir?
No, Mr. President, absolutely.
You're talking to the president, not me, sir. Mr. President, are you a racist?
That was April Ryan. You could hear the voice yelling out, Mr. President, are you a racist? Well, more media backlash over President Trump's comments about certain countries during his recent meeting on immigration. This, even as the president honors Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
But isn't he just acknowledging the serious problems in those countries and the need for a strong America to address these issues?
Joining us now with her reaction, the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King and Fox News contributor Alveda King. Nice to see you, ma'am. As always, good morning. Thank you. Your uncle fought real racism at home, certainly, and throughout much of this country, and made real change. What is it when everything is racist, when that is the word now that everybody paints everything with that they don't like? Does nothing become racist? Does it in some way sort of cheapen what your uncle fought so much to defend against and to stop?
Well, I believe Rachel just put it best. And by the way, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Fox and friends, thank you for being on it with real news and not fake news. So to answer your question, absolutely. Racism is just a word that's being bandied and thrown about and thrown at the president, in my opinion, unjustly. President Trump is not a racist. I've been with the president recently quite a bit, and when he signed the legislation making the historic site, Martin Luther King site in Atlanta, Georgia, a national park, it was introduced by Congressman John Lewis, and that, believe it or not, that's one thing the two of them did together. It took two to do it, and I'm so glad the president has done it. But what is so outrageous, to call a man a racist who continues to acknowledge the significant work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., my uncle, in a positive way. And he puts his money where his mouth is. He puts his energy behind it. And in making America great again, you know, perhaps saying that in Haiti and in Africa, Africa is a huge continent with many nations. There was no offense to the people, a lot of dignity to the people, but the hellholes in that, some of their own leaders in Africa and Haiti have taken advantage of them and the area and done a disservice to the people. So, and again, Rachel, yes, to have a strong America, a compassionate America who can really help nations like Haiti and all the African nations. African people are brilliant. Haitian people are brilliant, productive, and wonderful, and they deserve better. And I believe that President Trump not only understands that, but is making America great again so we can be a big help to clean up some of the hellholes across the world and in our own nation. He's doing a great job with prison reform and helping those prisoners come back to society to lead productive lives. He said to people on Medicaid, okay, you need assistance, that's a good thing, but you need to work as well. Have the dignity of a job. I like all of those things. The little babies in the womb. I could go on and on about all the good things he's doing.
So could Pete. Sometimes you got to ask one question and get one great answer, and that's where we have to leave it. Alveda King, thank you very much for what you do and for your insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. Is it even possible colleges becoming more and more liberal with conservatives being shouted down? And one professor says the liberal shift is set to get even worse. He'll explain why next. Overnight, ending a manhunt for the man who allegedly opened fire on a Knoxville police officer. Police arresting Ronnie Wilson in Blount County, just outside of Knoxville, nearly 2 days after police say he shot an officer in the shoulder during a traffic stop. Officer Jay Williams has been released from the hospital. He's expected to be okay. And President Trump keeping the Obama-era Iran nuclear deal alive, but warning this is the last time. Despite his open opposition, the president is outlining two paths forward: either fix the deal's disastrous flaws and permanently block the potential for Iran to build nuclear weapons, or the U.S. will withdraw, he says. The deal's fate now has a mid-May deadline. And the president arriving in Florida overnight, just as the White House doctor announced he's in excellent health. Dr. Ronnie Jackson says Mr. Trump's first exam as commander-in-chief at Walter Reed Military Hospital went, quote, exceptionally well. And Dr. Jackson says he will give us some more details on Tuesday. Guys?
Thank you, sir.
All right. A new poll out shows that conservative students are more reluctant than other political affiliations to speak out about politics in class.
Shocker. And one professor is offering a reason why. According to his recent studies, professors in colleges are becoming increasingly even more liberal in the last few decades, going from around 45% identifying as liberal in 1969 to nearly 60% in 2013. Now they don't call themselves liberals, they call themselves progressives. And it could get worse. Here to discuss is visiting assistant professor of economics at Berry College, Philip Magnus. Philip, thank you very much for joining us this morning. So first off, why this shift? I mean, we all think of higher education as liberal. Why are you saying it's getting more liberal?
Right. Thanks again for having me. Well, a couple things. If you look at the surveys historically, we have about 50 years worth of data where they've been asking professors a simple question: where do you self-identify? Is it conservative, moderate, or liberal? And for most of the late 20th century, it was a pretty stable ratio. College faculty always tended to lean on the left, but they hovered around 40 to 45% for a good 30 years. And then right around 1998, 1999, there was a break that happened. And that break saw a rapid acceleration of faculty members that started to self-identify as liberal, and it came at the expense. There was a decline simultaneously, not only in conservatives, but faculty members that identified as moderates.
People, why? What, you know, is that a concerted effort?
Yeah, I don't think there's any like design behind it, but rather, so my theory is that it comes from a growth in hiring in certain fields, certain academic disciplines, mostly in the humanities and social sciences, that tend to be a bit more overtly political, and they tend to lean on the left in higher rates than the rest of the faculty.
Could it also be that if you were thinking about going into, become a professor, that you just kind of decide you don't want to be there if you're a conservative because you don't feel welcome, but you're sort of self-select out of the field?
Right. And I think this is entirely a problem. What you see is, so for example, let's take English. It's the largest humanities. The most recent poll shows that about 80% of English faculty identify on the political left. Now, if you're a conservative and you want to study English, where do you go to grad school where you're not going to face a similar type of, ideologically minority position?
And you have this new proliferation of whether they're gender studies departments or women's studies departments or minority studies departments, this sort of a niche that if you were a conservative, maybe you reject the very premise of the reason for that department. So why would you be welcome there?
Right. It's a very tricky thing. And, I'm an advocate of viewpoint diversity in the academy. I want 1,000 different voices to flourish. I want 1,000 different perspectives to be offered. And I think students get the best material when they're exposed to multiple different perspectives. The problem you get is certain disciplines seem to be skewing very heavily in one direction or another. And this would be true if, for whatever reason, they happen to skew on the right. It just so happens that segments of academia have moved further to the left. What this creates is effectively an unwelcome echo chamber type of a situation where any prospective grad students become the next professors. So that's why I think this trend is going to continue.
I'm already seeing my high school students self-censoring what they write for their teachers. I can only imagine what's happening at the university level.
Philip, man, keep screaming into the echo chamber for us, will you?
Please.
Philip, thanks a lot. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, the media slamming the president for his immigration comments.
Those are his words. He has been a racist his entire life.
Unfortunately, we've gotten used to, and we have accepted, and we know that this president is a racist.
You're melting.
Wow, Ana Navarro is so unhinged.
Yeah.
But is the outrage fully warranted? Our panel of radio talk show hosts will be here to discuss. And she's called for President Trump's impeachment many times. Now Maxine Waters is protesting the president by skipping the State of the Union.
Wow, and shocker. And get this, the winner of last week's $450 million Mega Millions jackpot is a college dropout, young enough to be your son.
Or son-in-law.
He's got a good life in front of him. Yes, that's right.
He's pretty eligible now.
You're melting. Words. He has been a racist his entire life.
Unfortunately, we've gotten used to, and we have accepted, and we know that this president is a racist, and to quote his own staff, a dope.
When you then add on, we need more people from Norway. Because basically, to me, that's like saying, well, we don't want y'all brown people because you're not doing anything for the country.
You think you've seen full meltdown mode until you see full meltdown mode, and that's the media right now, continuing their racism narrative in the wake of President Trump's recent immigration comments. But does everyone in the media share the same outrage? Let's get a reaction from our panel of radio talk show hosts. Not enough microphones for this crew. Host of the Wilkow Majority, Andrew Wilkow, Fox News contributor David Webb, radio host and Fox News contributor Tammy Bruce, and the host of Steele and Unger on Sirius XM, Rick Unger. Good morning to all of you. Thanks for being here.
You're not going to have time to talk.
I'm not even going to try to
Sit
talk.
back.
But I'm going to start with Rick, our resident liberal here. Are you hysterical about what's happened?
I don't get hysterical, so I'm not sure I can say that. Look, there are obviously some problems with the comment on a lot of fronts, and Andrew and I were talking about it earlier.
But you have problems with the comments about the comments. I mean, it seems that the expletive word is CNN's favorite word right now.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's something that you certainly have to wish wasn't said, because I think the president should have known it would escape that meeting. Now, I'll tell you what, I am putting a little blame on the leakers, and I'll tell you why. I think the most, aside from the moral issues, and everybody has their own point of view on that, there is a foreign policy issue here. You know, there are parts of sub-Sahara in Africa that are the fastest growing economies in the world. People that we need to do business with. We want our American firms doing business. That coming out will definitely not be helpful.
Tammy, does it matter that that comment was made in the context of a lottery system? So, yeah, you can separate countries from people, but what if you're not getting necessarily to choose who those people are?
Well, look, it was a comment made in the larger construct of who we're bringing in and what we want here in this country. And the issue is for the people, whether they're from Haiti or anywhere else, which, by the way, there's now an admission Haiti was never mentioned, of course. That was just an add-on because, of course, it's more dramatic. But it really is for the people who've come here from those countries. They're the ones who agree. They've left those countries for a reason. Well, and getting here for that dynamic, a realization that their lives can be better. But this is a larger conversation. It's why we have government. They should be having it. But the reaction has been really is denigrated the nature of why you have those conversations in private in the first place. Look, the Democrats were getting Donald Trump to agree with them on DACA and certain things, and they turn around and do this. So it's going to be now a problem for the Democrats. Maybe the president should rethink those kinds of meetings because of this kind of thing happening.
Well, how much is the salty language also a reaction to a bad deal that the president had presented to him as well?
It's a reaction to a bad deal and all those other things. I'm going to agree with Rick on something, which is the leakers are the problem here. Look, go inside White Houses, close the doors, and you have frank talk. The problem is you've got people now who take that frank talk out of the room. And let me ask the obvious question. What was wrong about some of the things he said? Put the expletive aside and look at countries broken down by despotism, by warlords, by criminal cartels. This isn't about people or landscape. It's about the leadership of those countries. $500 million raised to help Haiti. Look at the state of this country. Democrats are fighting to keep Haitians on TPS here, temporary protected status. Well, if Haiti's so great, why do these people not want to run back? The problem is you look at Africa, where out of 50-something countries, 32 or so of them are broken down with Islamism, warlords, Al-Shabaab, various forms of strife, and they're economically, I mean, it's actual tragedy.
Well, what if temporary protected status is never temporary? I mean, what the president is pointing out is these things that are temporary policies eventually just slide into becoming permanent.
I'm gonna put the cherry on this. If you were to sneak that camera into an Upper West Side of Manhattan dinner party, and the topic was Trump voters, states that went for Trump, the Midwest, anything between the George Washington Bridge and the Golden Gate Bridge, what kind of language do you think those Upper West Side of Manhattan Rick Unger types? What do you think the Rick Unger types?
Come on! I've talked with you.
Really? You got to be careful here. This is one of the memes that's trying to deflect this thing. Nobody's angry at the president for using a cuss word. We all cuss.
Really? Yes, they are.
No, they aren't.
No. They're angry. And the other one, they can't get enough of it.
They're angry about the context he used it in. Look, people.
When referring to Haiti,
people
got a Jeopardy question.
Wait. People emigrate to other countries because they think they're going to have a better life. I got to tell you, I grew up in a town in Ohio that everybody used to refer to with the same exact word.
But let me just add, watch the hand.
We got one more minute. Tammy, we've only got 1 minute left. Go ahead.
But let me just say that the left isn't angry about anything. This is an opportunity. They're opportunistic. They see something that's going to help them gain some credibility with their base. They've never cared about this dynamic. It's been the UN. It's been Barack Obama that's made the world a dumpster fire, that has created these problems. They're not suddenly concerned about these regions. Haiti has been out there being abused and ruined because of the global international system. Sure. They have nothing that any of these liberals care about, and so it's been abandoned. So they don't suddenly care about any of this. It's all theater.
The bottom line on this is, to Andrew's point, you've got the crew that made fun of it. Let's look at the Tea Parties and teabagging, which was their favorite word over at MSNBC. They were obsessed with it, and now they're offended by language. This is all about going after Trump.
It's all BS.
Trump literally could cure cancer. They'd say he created it so he could cure it.
All right, I don't know about you, America, but I want more of this, which is why we're going to have you guys stick around, and we're going to do round 2 of this as well. Rick, you're a little outnumbered, but we love you anyway. All right, Rachel, over to you.
Turning now to your headlines. A suspect is now in custody 3 days after detectives discovered the body of an Ivy League student buried in a California park. 20-year-old Samuel Woodward is accused of murdering his high school friend, 19-year-old UPenn student Blaze Bernstein. DNA evidence linking him to the crime. Detectives used Bernstein's Snapchat to track Woodward, who they say drove with Bernstein to the same park where he was found dead. It's still unclear how the student, who was home on winter break, died. The CDC says flu season appears to be peaking, with the disease now widespread in every state except Hawaii. The rate of hospitalization climbing with several weeks to go in the season. Flu rates roughly doubling this past week compared to the week before. 7 children died last week, bringing the season total to 20. Doctors still say the best way to prevent the flu is to get the vaccine, despite the CDC expecting it to be only 30% effective. New York Mayor Bill de Blasio convincing the city to commit $10 million to build new, less offensive statues. A heavily debated Christopher Columbus monument near Central Park will stay, but de Blasio says the city will add text providing historical context.
I'll tell you what a bad person he was.
A tribute to Native Americans is also planned as a counter to the Columbus statue, but no other plans have been announced. The mayor's commission on the controversial statues resulted in the relocation of just one after 5 months of review. The winner of the $450 million Mega Millions jackpot identified as 20-year-old Shane Missler of suburban Tampa, Florida. His reaction on Facebook to the January 5th drawing says it all. In a statement, Missler, who's taking the roughly $282 million lump sum payout, saying, quote, "I hope to use it to pursue a variety of passions, help my family, and do some good for humanity." Good for him. And those are your headlines.
There's probably a few other things in there.
All right. And
maybe not Facebook
Maybe a few more
appropriate
Celtics
things.
games. I don't know. All right, we've got to move now on to some extreme weather with Rick Muth. Rick, good morning.
Guys, good morning. A really big week with weather. We had all the floods out across parts of California. This is that same storm system is moving out across parts of the east. Now the snow moving in, really warm yesterday across the eastern seaboard. That is all about to change. Here's the forecast radar with temperatures 42 in New York, 58 in Boston right now. By 10 o'clock this morning, 30 in New York, 42 in Boston. So the cold front is moving through, and behind this we have days and days of that cold air coming right back in. Take a look towards tonight. It's going to be feeling much colder, and by tomorrow morning this time, everybody back down towards the single digits. So the cold is there coming back in. Here is the wind chill. There's where the coldest air is, and once again, this looks very much like it did for the last couple of weeks across the eastern kind of 2/3 of the country. This air sticks around for the next number of days. Maybe not as bad as it was last time. Nonetheless, certainly not as nice as these last couple of days. Guys?
Yeah, chilly all over. All right, Rick, thanks.
Appreciate it.
thank you, Rick.
All right, President Trump doubling down, saying no DACA, no deal without that wall.
Any solution has to include the wall, because without the wall, it all doesn't work.
All right, we know what the Democrats think about that. What do the voters think about that? We're going to have the brand new dials you're going to see only right here on Fox and Friends.
Life happens. That's why feeling safe is priceless. With ADT, you can feel safe with an ADT starter kit.